All right, Mark, let's go, guys. Welcome to another great episode of Success Illustrated. My name is Spencer Iverson, and this is my partner,
Mark Sterling.
We are super excited about our episode on today because we have a very, very special guest. But before we introduce our guest, before Mark, you introduce our guest on today, if you're visiting and watching us for the very first time, let's give you another little bit of a background about what Success Illustrated is all about. We started this podcast because Mark and I, we've been blessed to have had a lot of success and a lot of experience as entrepreneurs and building businesses. And people have come to us and asked us, hey, what about mentorship? Can you coach me? How have you done this? How have you built that? And we said, look, what better platform today, Mark, than a podcast? And what we wanted to do to make ourselves unique and our brand stand out was to highlight the stories of the individuals who've gone out there to become the embodiment of success, hence the name Success Illustrated. There are already a number of podcasts that kind of show you the end result. They show you the big car, the fast cars, the big houses, the lots of money, the extravagant lifestyles. What we wanted to do was really focus on the journey. What is it that you're not hearing about? Because, you know, it's always fun to see the end of the movie, but what about all of the scenes that led up to the movie? That's the lane that Success Illustrated parks in. And hopefully from listening to that and listening to these wonderful array of successful guests that we have, you'll learn something in the process. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. So today we get a chance to dive in and talk to someone that's very dear to my heart, great friend. He's been a coach, been a mentor. He's actually a pastor of a church, senior pastor, Embassy Church right there in Greensboro, North Carolina. He understands the ministry. He also understands marketplace. And we get a chance to share today some of the principles, some of the philosophies. We actually extract that out of him. And Pastor Anthony Knotts is with us today. And I want to jump straight to the questions, guys, because we have so much information. And I think you'll be seriously blessed, pun intended, this day. Pastor Anthony Knotts, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Oh, man, I'm excited. Glad you guys have me. You know, good to be back.
Yeah, man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, brother.
We got some stories. Yeah.
So let's jump right into it. So who is Pastor Anthony Knotts?
Well, actually, I'm from Lexington, North Carolina. God gave my life to Christ in 1992. Became a pastor in 1996. And so I've been doing, pastoring, but one of the greatest discoveries is when I was able to take and discover merge ministry and marketplace together. And so there was a period in my life in my ministry where I focused so much on ministry. But then for the last 10 years, I focused on marketplace. But here in this last year, it's been merging those two together. So I feel like my purpose is to merge ministry and marketplace and show people that your work and your worship is never meant to be separated. The same Hebrew word for worship is the same Hebrew word for work. And so God never intended for us to separate those two.
Well, preaching early, boy.
When you find work, you find worship. When you find worship, you find work. And so I'm excited because it's just been a discovery. It's been a journey, not just a personal journey, but a spiritual journey to make the Bible come to life. And so as I've been on this marketplace journey and I look back in the Word, I realized that 98% of the miracles that we see in the Bible did not take place in a building. And so they took place in the marketplace.
That's right.
And so finding a sense of purpose that I believe I'm on this earth to shed light to that. You got people like Bishop Yates who brings light to it. But I also feel like that's part of my role is to actually be the embodiment of that, but also carry the message for the end time return of Jesus Christ.
I love it.
Awesome. So in addition to that, first off, thank you for sharing that. That's very insightful. I think the people get a chance to see a perspective of what Pastor Anthony Knotts is. You've done some unique things. You've combined your service to people, also not just in ministry, but in the marketplace. You've been able to take that. You've done several things, whether it's in the direct sales industry, whether it's in traditional tech business. You've not limited yourself. Before we go into where you are now and how we got there, why have you not been afraid to do something? Let me give you a background. I'm a senior business analyst in the past life, right? And I remember that I would get instructions or requirements from the business, and I had to go take them over to the developers. I had to create the documents, they call the requirements documents. But I had to understand what they said, translate into a language they could read so they could get it. And one thing I learned in that experience was never tell the creator, the developer, how to build something, but only give him the requirement. And to bring it over to the spiritual side, when you pray for something and you execute, Don't go to the creator, the developer, with how you want it done. Just give him what you want done, and he'll provide the how.
Right.
So you've executed in so many different spaces. What allowed you to say, I'm going to do it anyway, even if you didn't have the information, even if you didn't have the resources or the knowledge?
Well, looking back, I realized that I've been a paradigm. You know, I'm a pioneer. I cut as I go. I can go back as far as being 8 years old, growing up in the projects, in a very abusive household. There was not a lot of support, and it's no sad story. It's just a truth that I've had to overcome. But I'm looking back over that. I've always had to overcome. But I remember vividly when I decided I was going to play sports. My dad was like, I ain't taking you. So I had to walk, ride my bike, or catch a ride. And I remember walking the roads and from a game, and I'm just thinking about other people. And as I look back over it, I never, I couldn't afford to be afraid to be different. As I look back even to 8 years old. I don't know why 8, but that's where it started with me. So the rest of my life was all about being different. And so even once I got born again, it's like, you know, and then I started feeling this call to do things on my own. I'll never forget, I told my wife, I built ministry. I said, I want to do something different. And she said, do it. I was riding down Wendover Avenue. She said, do it. And that's where we got into the video business cards and mobile marketing and everything. And so just not being afraid to be different, to, you know, one of the things I said to somebody last night, it's interesting when the burden becomes the blueprint. You know, so I had a God always gave me a burden for something. He didn't give me everything about it, but he just gave me a burden. But now the burden has become a blueprint. Even when it came to ministry, I didn't have anybody to show me how to do ministry. I just had to cut as I go. And so, but from that, I wanted to show other people how to do ministry. And then actually when I got in the marketplace, you know, wanted to be successful in business and then show other people how to do that. And as I look back, I realized the blueprint that I now have came from a burden. It came from an idea.
You know, Pastor, my dad is a preacher, right? And he an old school preacher. You know, my dad is now 78, 79, right? And, you know, I love this conversation and this dialogue because I think that America has its ideal of what a pastor is. You know, a pastor is just somebody who always in the pulpit, who's always at the church, you know. And I think that was the era that my dad came through, where he's a preacher, but there's also the business of preaching, and they're two separate things, right?
Definitely.
And what you've done though is, you know, you're like a Renaissance man, right? You know, pastoring and preaching is one thing you do, but it's not everything that you do,
right?
And you're kind of breaking the mold of you've broken the mold of what we have typically thought of a pastor. It was almost like taboo. Oh, man, he doing something other than preaching. Oh man, you know, God, he ain't no real pastor. So talk about that shift. That look, pastors can be business people too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to just be in the pulpit on Sundays. You know. Right. So talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because as I'm sitting here, I think about that. You're talking about the journey, and we talking about the ugly. I think that when it came to marketplace, I was sort of forced because we took ministry from nothing and built it to, you know, one church, 2 locations. That was a big thing. And so we did that. But I believe God wanted me to do something else. But in order for me to do it, he had to make some drastic moves. So he began to blow on the ministry. Okay. And so I remember the ministry that we grew, people started leaving. And then the money dropped. And so we was losing everything. I mean, losing everything. Right. I was turning cars in. And I remember one night I rolled over and my wife was crying. And I looked at it and I said, I caused that. And I said, never again, Mr. Iverson, would I ever rest my life and my family's livelihood on tithes and offering. I'll never, I would never do that, man. And so from that day on, that's where the journey began. Nice. And I started, you know, I wanted to create my own income while I still pastored. Yeah. And the fortunate thing about it, my kids were young. And so they had saw me just doing ministry. So when I started doing marketplace business, they transitioned with me. So they grew into that. But when we were losing everything, they couldn't understand that. But literally, man, we were losing everything. And I made up in my mind, I made a decision that I would never, ever, 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 depend upon people's tithes and offering. And then I think one of the other things too is that, people always talk about how church hurt them.
Yeah.
Well, church hurt me.
I get
as a pastor, because man, we let people live in our house.
Bruh.
I let people drive my cars,
Bruh.
and people flipped on us. I
Bruh.
mean, they flipped on us, man.
Yeah.
People. I went to preach at a church the other day, and I pulled up, and my car I'm driving. And so one of the kids was looking at the car and all that, and I was like, man, that ain't no but a car. Because I remember when we lost everything. I went from driving a Mercedes-Benz, a Navigator, to driving a Cavalier.
Oh, Lord.
God got away.
Oh, Lord.
I had to roll the window up.
Oh,
I
Lord.
went from hitting buttons.
Not the hand roll.
Oh, I had to roll.
Shout out to the hand
but
roll.
It was amazing, man. But that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, I decided I was going to do that, and, did it. But then I heard about network marketing.
Okay.
And then that's where I remember first time I met you.
Yeah.
And just meeting you guys. And I'm bringing this up. Marketplace was a healing place for me. You guys, Marketplace embraced me. Mm-hmm. I thought I was crazy because I was teaching this stuff in church, and people weren't teaching. I was teaching business and credit.
Because those are biblical principles.
Yeah, biblical.
Those are biblical principles.
But nobody was talking about it.
Right.
And so I started talking about it, and the people was like, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear that. But then when the bottom fell in 2008, I looked smart.
I want to pause you real quick because, again, there's so many analogies to your life as a pastor and my upbringing as a pastor's kid, right?
Wow.
And I remember vividly, and also the fact, small town ministry, right? My dad, small town ministry. And so small town ministry, every church is not a mega church, right? With hundreds of thousands of dollars raised every week, and so small town Valdosta, Georgia, where my dad was served as a pastor. When the money went funny, I remember vividly. My dad went to teach school. He went to go teach at a local high school or Bible school or something like that. And you would have thought from some of the members that he had just broken all 10 of the commandments. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay for everybody else's money to be funny, for them to go to another job. Right. But the moment the pastor go do something, all of a sudden now we violating the scripture, or I remember when my dad decided the side of town we were going to live on. He didn't live. The church was south side, right, which was on the south side of town. Right. We lived on the north side. That in and of itself almost caused a church split because we paying too much. We need to really, and again I watched my dad go through those battles, feeling unappreciated, feeling like he was taken, and all he was trying to do was provide a better life. So why is it okay for everybody to do good but the pastor?
And it's funny because if you look at Noah, he was called by God to build the ark. It was 8 people that was on the ark. In our day, Noah would have been an unsuccessful pastor. But to me, he was successful.
Of course.
And the reason why? Even though he preached all those days and nobody came into the ark, he didn't lose his family. And I think it's vital that I don't lose my family. Yeah. My kids mean something to me. Yeah. And there are a lot of PK kids who hate church people, and they hate church because church took their parents from them.
That's right.
And pastors felt obligated because we built our lives upon the tithe and the offering, and I said I wasn't gonna do it.
Watch this, one more thing, brother. One more thing, because see, this is tough for me because again, I watched what my dad did. I watched my dad preach for 40 years. We had people who not only stayed in our house, who lived in our house. We had people who sent their kids to college in our town, who let those kids. Who my mom would go pick up and bring to church.
That's it.
Right? Other ministers would, all of that. My dad gets ready to retire, 40 years, built the building, and my dad wouldn't retire until the building was paid off because he didn't want the new pastor to have that debt. And so when we got ready to celebrate my dad and find out what retirement package they had put in place for my dad, 0. 40 years of preaching.
Wow.
40 years of preaching, And my dad had zero retirement. But let me show you how God worked. God blessed my dad through his kids. My dad don't want for nothing.
That's it.
And whoever listening to this, who know what I'm talking about, I'm talking to you.
Wow.
My dad don't want for nothing.
Wow. But
because our lives are blessed through my dad.
Through your dad.
But see, when I'm talking to young, this is why it's hard for a lot of young cats to even look at ministry now.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? 40 years of your life and the church don't have no plan for retirement, $0.
Well, let's look at what's going on, like pre-pandemic. People wasn't prepared. I was telling people it was going to rain. I was telling our church. I didn't know what was going to happen. But now things have picked back up. I see some of my same pastor friends doing the same thing. They on flyers. They're on the circuit. They're on the circuit. They're on the circuit. You didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
You didn't learn anything.
No.
So I was preparing, like what I'm doing now. People, they were looking at me crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was no pandemic.
Right.
But then when the pandemic hit, I was in a position to acquire things and do things. And they didn't know, many of them didn't know what was going to happen. They was hoping because their livelihood was predicated upon
Tithes and
offering. And so I'm glad you shared that with me.
Yeah.
Because I tell people, I tell my church now I got 3 years and I'm done with it. I mean, as far as like being a full-time pastor, and a lot of pastors can't retire because there's no strategy, there's no plan and everything. And I don't want to, I mean, but thank you for sharing that with me, because that's let me know that where I am, you know, in my pursuits, and as tough as it is,
you're doing the right thing,
and as ugly as it is, I'm doing the right thing for myself and for my family and everything. So, but I mean, here's the thing. If it wasn't for Marketplace, I would never know you all.
Yeah. That's right.
I had this aspiration, Mr. Iverson and Mr. Sterling, was I wanted to climb that preaching pole.
Okay.
And I had this dream of like, I'm gonna preach in front of Bishop Yates, and the big thing was manpower. Do you not know? No, well, you guys know, my biggest audience was not at a church.
Wow.
It was in a convention center.
Memphis,
Tennessee.
And I got to pause right there, because if anybody got that tape, now listen, let me set this up. Mark and I are relatively good speakers.
Yes.
I would say.
Yes.
We're relatively good.
Yes.
Okay.
Shout out to Spencer being really good.
Shout out to Mark Sterling being very good. So
why you think I was glad I went before y'all?
Well, hold on. I'm getting to that. I have no problems going behind typically anybody. I don't really care. Look, however you set the program up, I don't really care who you put in that. Memphis, Tennessee. What year was it?
2016.
Memphis, Tennessee. Pastor Knotts was going up, and I'm a biggest cheerleader.
Pass the grapes.
And this almost says something. Lord help me, give me the right language, Lord. This brother did one of the most impassioned convention speeches, Mark, ever. I mean, people were throwing money on the stage. They were coming. Thousands of people running to the front. We got an audience out there coming to the front, throwing money on the stage. And ladies and gentlemen, coming up next, your VP of Business Development. Boo! Who comes behind that? You may have people crying and carrying on past, and that's why you do me like that, brother.
Man, I was so thankful he did that. He did that speech, and but I was mad. I only had 20s in my pocket. I think all of them came up on wallet, man. Let me tell you.
I remember looking at dance like, I stopped. Is that for me? And I said, I'm gonna make it rain in this joint.
Oh yeah.
But what I'm saying is that was God's confirmation that I was in the right lane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, and I periodically go back and look at that.
Yeah.
As a reminder that I'm in the right place.
And that you have a gift.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brother has a gift. If you're ever blessed to be in his city, at his congregation, please stop by and hear Pastor Anthony Knotts. He has a tremendous gift of being relative.
Yes.
He has a relational gift where he can extract from the word some in a way that you can understand it.
Absolutely.
Know the hitherto-fors, and look, man, just breaking it in the marketplace helped you to cultivate your gift to where the average person could understand it. But I know we got some stuff now about the business, because we talk about this word.
Can I say this one thing?
Oh man, yes sir.
Everybody, you talked about the gift, and the scripture says your gift will make room for you and bring you for a great man. Here is one of the things I realized. The church talks about gift development, but we don't talk about skill development. And what I believe is your skill will make room for your gift. Case in point, you guys. I was a pastor, but I remember vividly after meeting in that house, I said, I can get a bunch of people together. And you was like, really? I'm like, yeah. So you came and, we called that thing National in a Night. But what I realized is that your skill will make room for your gift. And because I manifested a skill set, then, and I had a work ethic.
That's right.
I never preached to y'all.
That's right.
I mean, I never asked y'all to speak. I remember in February, you all y'all asked me to speak, and we talked about the egg, the apple, and the tennis ball. I never asked y'all to speak. My success got me that platform.
That's
so
right.
the skill make room for the gift. I think it's very important in the church that we just don't talk about gift development. We got to talk about skill development.
So what I'm hearing is that there are a lot of people that feel entitled. I'm great. Hark, come and get me, right? Bring me onto the platform. And what you're saying is, no, your work will make a way. Your skill will open the door. Most people miss that part. So, for example, I hear a lot of people ask, me, and I know they've asked Spencer multiple times, will you be a mentor? A mentor is not something you ask of someone. Mentorship is something that people identify that you may be open to and normally reach out for, right? So you're saying that if you do enough work, I'm gonna borrow a quote, and you may know who said this. The tongue in your mouth must line up with the tongue in your shoes. Shout out to Spencer Robertson.
Shout out.
That's deep. I never heard that. I'll give him credit 3 times. After the 3rd time,
no, I'll give him credit a lot. So you gotta give me credit.
I
for
have
that.
a licensing fee. I got a licensing fee, fellas.
I got a pseudonym. I got by proxy.
So the tongue in your mouth must line up.
Tongue in your mouth. Got to line up tongue in your shoes.
How your activity must line up what you're saying, and you can't say that I want to speak in front of all these audiences when you haven't done the work to get to the point where someone will trust your word and your work in front of their people. Anyway, all that said, I remember you saying one thing, and then we're going to transition into, your current livelihood and how you're blessing people with another skill that you turn into a gift. By the way, guys, a gift is not a gift until it's given.
Write that down.
A gift is not a gift until it's given.
Awesome.
That's going to unpack later on. So you said one time in a speech in front of an audience here in Atlanta, you were talking when you were bringing your son with you. You went to Florida. You came back, and you told that audience, you said you need to get out of your feelings and get into your future. Unpack that for us.
What drives me is my kids. And I remember vividly in building that business, a pastor friend was going through some stuff. So I literally drove with my kids to Tallahassee, Florida. And
From Greensboro, North Carolina.
9 hours there, 9 hours back.
Wow.
And I paid my own way, and just to go and offer a solution. And, I had to move beyond how I felt. But what was driving me was my future, providing an example for my kids, and I'll never forget riding with them and looking in the back seat. And it was just daddy and my 2 kids. And so I'm a big proponent of you gotta feel it. You can be filled with what you're presently going through, or you could be filled with your future. Feelings are real, but it's a matter of what you're feeling. So I wanted to always get in the feeling of the future. And then it's magnetic. It pulls me towards that and everything. But it's always a why behind, me doing that. And just getting them more. I wanted more for my kids. I read a book called The Hidden Cost of Being an African American.
Ooh.
And it was a white guy talking about the economic situations of African Americans.
Yeah.
And he said the difference between us and all of these other ethnicities was Head Start assets.
Yeah.
He said that African Americans don't get the education, we don't get the home, we don't get the wedding. You see what I mean? And so when I read that book, it took me into the future of my kids.
Got it.
So I said I wanted to give my kids 3 things. I wanted to give them money towards a home. If I can't give them a home, I wanted to give them, a free education if they chose to do that. But also, I wanted to make sure they got married. So those are the things, and I went to work, because I felt that.
One quick thing. I gave this to my mom just the other day, and I qualified it, Mark, before I gave it to Mom. I said, Mom, what I'm about to read to you, I'm going to post, and when you see it, I don't want you to think that you all did anything wrong in our upbringing, but it spoke to me,
right?
And it was relevant to something me and my mom were talking about at that time. In the post said, the problem with our parents' generation is that they pushed religion harder than financial literacy.
Oh man, don't even.
And what I was what my point was that, Mom, I didn't learn about good credit and credit cards until I was in my late 20s.
Right.
And by that time, my credit had already been shot. I mean, I pulled my credit report up when I was 29 and the police showed up. It was crazy. So, hey, does somebody run any credit here? I mean, it was crazy. So, but we understood, but like I said, I knew the word. Oh, bro, I can quote some scriptures. But I didn't, so much like you with your kids, I made sure as soon as my kids could read, they were learning about debits and credits, assets and liabilities, because that was something I had to learn more about later in life. And since I knew better, I did better through my kids. But it speaks to what you're saying about, man, how you wanted to empower your kids with more information, more financial literacy, more things about entrepreneurship, right? Because like I said, that former generation, we knew about Bible study and Sunday night service. And again, nothing wrong with that because it's the foundation upon which my principles are built.
Right.
But man, that book and what it was, man, we are so typically far behind.
And we still are.
And
but let me say
are.
this though. I've served under some major powerhouse pastors. But the reality of it is that none of them ever asked me about my credit. They never asked me about my bank account. They never asked me how much life insurance I had. I never got those questions from pastors. And as I go down this road, I had to get beyond being bitter because the money was always about tidying up, but nobody ever taught me about money. And so I'm 48 when I bought my first house. 48.
Wow.
My son was 21.
Wow.
I mean, 48. And so that's like, but none of them ever taught me about finances.
That's strong. But it brings me right back to the kids and your why, your future, right?
Right.
And right now, so the world knows, Pastor Knotts is the owner of, multiple restaurants, multiple food trucks. And that came from a promise.
Definitely.
To your daughter, Destiny.
Right.
If everybody can look, you'll see that his shirt says Seafood Destiny.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'll be bold enough to say the best seafood restaurant, one of the best restaurants in the Triad, not just Greensboro. So you definitely want to make sure you go there, follow them on the appropriate social media platforms. We'll talk about that. But you made a promise to Destiny that she would go to college, and you took the church version of a fish fry. And you actually expanded out and wound up building what I believe is going to be an empire.
I love it.
So if you could just talk about the promise you made, but don't talk about where you are as the restaurants and all that stuff. Talk about the backyard.
Cool.
Let's talk about the backyard. Right. How that started and the price you paid above and beyond the feelings to get to the future.
It's funny, because we're in Atlanta, so let me go back with the idea. But I did make a promise to my daughter, if she goes to college, I would pay for it debt-free. So she did her part. And October of 2017, I'm in Atlanta at a church conference, me and Jalen, with our company. Jalen is the guy, the guru behind it. So the bishops wanted to meet with Jalen, and they told me to stay out. So one of my members was up here, and so we went outside to have lunch. And all these food trucks were around. And I look around and God speaks to me. He said, "What's missing?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What kind of truck ain't here?" I said, "There's no seafood." He said, "Yeah, that's what you're going to do." I really hadn't paid attention to seafood trucks or food trucks, period. But after that, everywhere I went. So Destiny gets in college. And I'm like, I got to pay for college. Well, it's our senior year. I said, I got this idea. I'm gonna cook on Fridays. I'm gonna do 50 plates, crab leg plates, and charge $25. I had never made a crab roll in my life.
Wow.
But June, that previous year, now here's what's great. June the same year, I'm in Dallas, Texas with my son, and the Lord calls me on an absolute fast. He says, give up meat. I said, okay, I can give up this, not all meat. So literally, I have not had meat in 4 years and 8 months.
Yeah, Lord hadn't told me that one.
Yeah, so I'm just telling the story behind it was.
Shout out to Pastor Notch's faith.
Right. And so my first crab roll, you talking about ugly? The first one, I put everything in a pot like I see everybody doing. And I brought this girl over and, let her try it. And it sucked.
Oh,
and
wow.
She told me.
Wow.
So then I just backed up and I went in the backyard and I started doing it on the grill and, we went from there. But I remember I asked Jalen to build me a logo. He said he didn't say he wasn't going to do it. He just didn't do it. So I went and found somebody that would do me a logo. I found a logo and I got it developed and I sent it to him. Well, he took me serious. And I was going to call it something else. And one day, Destiny, I said, I'm going to call it seafood something. And she says, Daddy. I said, what? She said, didn't you say you was going to name it after me? Seafood Destiny.
There it is.
And so it literally was to do this. And all I was going to do was one day a week, 50 plates, $25.
Wow. And you had never done?
Nope.
That's crazy.
So I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is a man that doesn't eat meat started creating plates with meat in them. Warren Buffett once said, the thing that you like, make it your hobby. The thing the world loves, make that your business.
Definitely.
And you saw a gap where the vision was given to you. God will give you the vision, but he also gives you the provision. So
Right.
you saw that there were no seafood trucks. So you said, wait a minute, there's a gap in the market, and you had a unique opportunity. That people get rich because they create solutions. So you said, you know what? You didn't get locked into what I don't know how to do. You got locked into what needed to be prepared.
Definitely.
So you went there and created this venue of Seafood Destiny from your backyard. Now, who did you sell to originally?
Well, here's the thing. From February of 2018 to November, I gave it away. My wife thought I was crazy. I had people.
How long ago? I'm sorry to cut you off, but how long ago? How long?
February 2018 to November. I remember my first plate I sold November 16th, 2018. So my wife thought I was crazy. The running question was who was coming over to sample. So I would bring people over to the house. From the backyard to, it got a little cold, so she let me come into the little screen porch. Then she felt really sorry for me and let me come into the house, in the kitchen. And I went through every pan in the house. My mother-in-law, bless her heart. Yeah. But I just invited people over. And then I started taking pictures and posting it on social media. And so then my first order, I went live on a Friday, November 16th, 2018. I put it out there. And man, people started ordering it. I was like, really?
Wow.
This works?
Wow.
And so they would come and pick up at our house, or then I talked some people into delivering. Wow. So we literally would have people come in our house, strangers would come in our house. And then I had some people that I enlisted them to deliver. And that's where we were.
There's a principle that I've trained on for years, and I even practice, Mark, that talks about how if you really want someone to learn and appreciate your gift, you must first give it away.
Definitely.
That's a wealth building principle, right? I did that in public speaking.
I did that in the projects.
And so, but the beauty of that is that when I started doing this, I made this red stuff, and I said, dip it. I said, no, I wasn't Kool-Aid.
I know the red stuff.
I said, dip it. And they dipped it. And they were like, I said, they said, what is it called? I said, I don't know. And this girl who now works on our team, she said, you can put that on everything. And it's now called the everything sauce.
Everything sauce.
And now we ship the sauce.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. Wow. But she named it, and she's now one of our key team members on our team. But she was one of the samplers. And now the principle of sampling still works to this day.
Of course.
Because when I get an idea, and I get these crazy ideas, I'll go into, we call it the lab, and the team members were working. They love when I come out the door from the back with something. I mean, they come like vultures. But now the customers are like, whenever you need some samplers,
right.
you know. And so it's amazing that same principle.
It's a proven model.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But watch this. You go to the mall. You got everyone to hand out the little thing, the chicken on the skewers.
Yep.
Costco. You walk.
Right.
You know, my kids. Daddy, we going to Costco this weekend? What, are you hungry? I mean, I know that we go to Costco. They want a sample, right? And obviously, in this climate, they haven't sampled as much. But it's a proven model that if something is good enough, you give it away for free, they're going to come back and ask for more.
And the thing about it is, I have this principle called SAM. If you solve problems, add value, meet needs, people will run the check.
Repeat that real time.
SAM.
One more time.
Solve problems, add value, meet needs. So if you solve a problem, add value, meet needs, people will write a check. I also, because I was also sensing that something was going to happen economically because of 2008, and here it was, I'm like, something's getting ready to pop. And I said to myself, I wanted to be on the producing side of it because we're always on the consuming side where we spend money. I said, I wanted to get on the side where we make money. And, you know, after a while, and lo and behold, here we are. But the other component about that is, like, you know, people flip houses, flip cars. I started flipping crab legs. I remember vividly. Going to buy my
pushing crab legs like weight.
I went and bought my one bag of crab legs.
Yep.
I went and bought a bag of corn, a pack of sausage, a pack of shrimp, and that's where it all started. And I was giving it away, and then I would go get more, and I was giving it away. I would go and get more, and I was giving it away, and then I started flipping it.
Was there ever a time that you thought it wouldn't work?
It had to.
Okay, let's.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go there because there's a lot we can pull out of that. So the question again, for those of you listening, those of you might be watching on YouTube, is: was there ever a time you thought it wouldn't work, and you just said it had to? Why did it have to?
Because of my daughter.
That's it.
That's it.
You know, I keep seeing this one reel pop up all the time when I'm scrolling on social media, and Kanye's receiving this award. And the year prior, you know, he said something crazy when he didn't win against another artist. And so Kanye gets on stage. I'm not sure if you saw this one or not. He says, "I know y'all probably are wondering what I was going to say if I didn't win. I guess you'll never know." Point being is, at some point, you make a decision that you have to win.
Losing's not an option.
Losing is not an option. And that sounds like what you did. You said, see, I'll give you another example. I was in La Plaza, Louisiana. I'll never forget. And I was in a direct sales company, and we were selling a hot beverage. You know, shout out to the coffee company.
Shout out to the delicious coffee.
Yeah, delicious coffee. And a lady asked me a question. We were sitting in the IHOP in La Plaza, Louisiana. And she says, "Excuse me, can you tell me how many people quit your company every month?" And that probably would have threw a lot of people. And my immediate response was, "I don't know, ma'am. I didn't sign up for the losing class."
Oh, wow. Got her.
Now, and it came out, and some people might have taken that and said, that was kind of rough. But what I was trying to convey to her is if you focus on what the winners do, the likelihood of winning is that much better. This had to work. I don't know what the loser's going to do. I didn't study what the losers do. I studied what the winners did. And that's what it sounded like you did. You studied what the winners did. And the winners were you in the future.
Definitely. And let me say this too. Okay. I'm going to say something. The battle for me, though, that I had to overcome, and Destiny, my daughter Destiny, helped me overcome that, is that now I had perceived success in ministry, but I also had perceived success in marketplace because of, you know, being successful, being that first diamond pastor to do stuff. So mentally, there was a war going on. But I'll tell y'all this. I knew that when I left that stage in Memphis, it was over.
Things, yeah.
It was just something on the inside. It was just like, and as much as I tried to make it work, I also knew it was over. I didn't know what was next. But then when I got this, I battled because now I got to deal with what pastors and other people were going to say, but I also had to think about, because one of the things I don't ever want to do is let people down.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not me.
Right.
I don't like letting people down.
Right.
And so there was an internal conflict. Now I just didn't have one, but I had two because there's something over here that I was really passionate about doing, but I was also good at these things.
What I don't want to lose the thought of is that it's going back to when you said you had to.
Yes.
That's it.
Right?
Yes.
Is this. And you know, Mark, I've studied the habits and tendencies of successful people for years. In indirect sales, home-based businesses, traditional businesses. If you go and read some of the profiles of the world's most successful people, from Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, all of them, there are several common threads. One of them is that they really didn't take off until there was a point in each of their lives where their back was against the wall, and they had to. There were no other options. For you, your had to were your kids. I made a promise to my daughter, and I have to. So if you're out there and you're listening, you're watching, or you're listening on the podcast, you may be at that point in your life where you have to. And yes, it might look like it's embarrassing to your friends, or you might be getting clowned from your family, or nobody's liking your posts on social media. That's okay. Guess what? You may be on the verge of your breakthrough, because guess what? Every successful person that I know, including me, we went through that. We were at a point where there was, listen, if y'all knew my story, really? Dude, I was not too many years removed from having $33.42 in a jar under the sink in my house with $200,000 worth of cars in my garage.
That's real.
I had to. There wasn't. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you this too. A grown man don't want to hear another grown man problems. Who do you call?
Right.
Another grown man already got their own issues.
That's it.
Who am I calling and say, yo, man? No, you just have to find a way.
That's it.
So if you're out there, hopefully you're encouraged by this. You might be in your had to place.
Because, I mean, we're living in a time right now where everybody's parading their success on social media.
Sure.
And this is a different podcast. And it was one of the reasons why I came, because when Mr. Sterling told me what you guys wanted to do, you know, we want to talk about the journey, because it seems like lifestyle marketing is selling. Yeah. And I mean, shout out and all that stuff, man. But at the end of the day, this is one of the things I told one of my mentees. I said, listen, your success will draw people to you, but when you tell them your struggle, they'll draw from you. I think the mistake that we make is that people are drawn to us because they see the success, but we forget, and we don't tell them about the struggle. Because what they're going to identify with really is the struggle.
Right.
Because that's where they are.
Right. That's right.
They want the success.
Misery loves company.
But they in the struggle. And if we tell them the struggle, it'll create hope. Zig Ziglar said, if I can, you can. And so, I mean, I want the opportunity. I want the success so I can share the story and everything. Because, and the story is where you are right now, I've been there.
You've been there, brother.
And
you've been there.
I think that's what's going to make us different. It's not about how big of a house I drive, or how big of a car, how nice car. That's going to get their attention, but that don't mean nothing.
Did you say success will draw them to you, but the struggle will have them draw from you?
Yeah.
I can't wait to think of that tomorrow in post it.
but seriously.
But then what happens is, though, because I've seen posts recently about this, about how people are going to, you know, these Instagram models, for example, they take hundreds of pictures and post the absolute single best one out of 100 pictures. That ain't you every day. You understand what I'm saying? Same thing with lifestyle marketing. They show you. How do you know that's their Rolls Royce? How do you know? How do you know that's their Ferrari? How do you know?
Drake was just gifted. I don't know if y'all saw the story. He was just gifted a Rolls Royce, but it was one that he rented for $5,000 a month. He drove it around because he wanted to look like he was successful, but he said that he was really manifesting, and so he paid $5,000 a month to have this car. But it was just gifted to him by his DJ and his manager. And so he said manifestation completed.
Right.
But, but what I'm getting at is that we got to talk about, I just preached a message on this past Sunday that was, my ugly made me tough.
Oh, man, that's good.
And how Jacob saw Rachel, but Laban snuck Leah in there. And Leah is the cockeyed one, the ugly one. You know, we see the end result, and he ultimately got Rachel, but he had to serve through the ugly. And we don't want to serve through the ugly. Man. When I started Seafood Destiny, and I finally got, you know, going, and I was gonna, the goal was a food truck. So I bought a food truck online.
Okay.
And I got scammed
and what
out
happened
of
next?
$10,000. There's this thing called mirroring. And so, I mean, it was amazing. They had a shipping company, all that stuff. And it was supposed to be there. 3 days later, it wasn't there.
Okay, let's pause real quick. Okay, because Mark, in pre-production, you talked about this. Our church-going folk who have self-doubt would have said, "It's a sign from the Lord. It's Jesus telling me not this. Thank you for the," and they would have quit. What made you just lost 10,000? You didn't just lose it, because see, I don't mind losing the money, but when you scam me out of the money, it's like a double punch.
Oh, that's worse.
Because now you kind of weaken my intellect.
And then weaken, like, and then you feel like, not say you felt this way. I would have said, man, how dumb was I? How did I miss that? But you didn't do that. I mean, okay, you had your moment where you
15 minutes.
Boo-hoo, 15.
You said another man don't want to hear another man's problem.
Right, who you gonna call?
I went to the bank because I wired the money, and I went to the bank, and when I did it, the bank told me that there was nothing that they could do. The longest walk was out of it, from that bank to the car.
Yeah.
And I sat there,
Yeah,
and that
man.
was all the money I had.
I've been there,
Wow.
brother.
And I cried.
Yeah.
And I dried my eyes. And I picked up the phone. And I looked on the internet. And I found another one.
And then you made a phone call.
I made a phone call. And I talked to my wife, and
Yeah.
I said, I called her, I said, well, I found another one. And she said, I'm not surprised. I said, what do you mean? She said, I knew you wasn't going to take it like that. But the beauty of that is...
Shout out to the ride or die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The beauty of it
absolutely.
is that when I was scrolling on the internet that day, I found the exact truck.
So you found the one
I got
that you should have
scammed on.
bought.
And I called the guy, and he answered the phone. And this is my words to him. You want to hear something funny? I didn't say, hey. I didn't say nothing. I said, you want to hear something funny? He said, what? I said, that truck you got, I bought it. And he laughed. And he was like, man, I'm sorry to hear you. He said, but what's your credit score? I said, what do you mean? He said, if you have this on your TransUnion, you can give me first month and last month, and I take care of you.
Wow.
But the beauty of it is, I think that when you go through ugly, you're not going through it for yourself. But because of that, and I launched my food, started the food truck business and restaurant business, people started gravitating to me. And they were like, I got this dream, Pastor Knotts, of owning a food truck. I'm like, well, why don't you start? Well, I don't have enough money. Well, you don't have to have enough money. How's your credit score? What do you mean? My credit score is this. And, I'm like, so let's call this person. And the best feeling in the world is when someone, calls you and say thank you. Because
Right.
I went through that, and I found this guy who will lease the trucks, and it made that $10,000 I lost worth it, because like everything else, I go through something so I can cut other people's learning curve.
No testimony.
That's it.
See, God not gonna do for us what we can do for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
God will show you the tree, but He not gonna give you the chair.
That's it.
You understand what I'm saying? No,
That's it.
there's wood. Now you got to go
gotta go
knock the
get it.
tree
Yeah.
down. You got to
Yeah.
refine the tree, turn it into lumber, cut it, use some skills, and make what you're going to end up making out of it. But He not going to make it for you.
And
And there's so many people I've counseled and mentored who they have a great dream, Mark. They want the food truck business, but they don't want to do the work.
And the powerful thing about that, every time I see Jamaris and he's out in his truck, I smile.
That's good.
I cut his learning curve. I lost 10 grand so he wouldn't. You know what I mean? And success is what you accomplish, but you're significant when you help other people become successful.
Right.
And so that's what it's like now. And it's in this journey, it's been so much like that. Like, you go through things and you're going through ugly, because in this, I knew nothing about the food industry.
That is crazy.
So when you get that call from the Internal Revenue Service, because you set up your POS system and you're taking this thing called sales tax, but you didn't know to set up the account
Right.
to pay it.
Right.
Because ain't nobody taught you that.
Right.
And you ain't done it for about 6 months. But you've been spending.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you like, oh. And I felt real bad about it until I heard Pinky Coles
Right.
say the same thing as Slutty Vegan. The same thing happened to her. I was like, whew.
Right.
I ain't the only one.
Right.
But I'm like, wait a minute. We got to start
Yeah.
sharing that with people.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But because you go out here and you start, you got this idea and you wanna start selling, but you don't think about structure. You don't think about infrastructure. You don't think about your systems and your strategies. And I'm at the point now where I tell people now, you can't afford not to be coached.
That's it. My God. Mentorship.
You can't. People don't want to pay it. I know. I have minimum $150,000 in mistakes.
In mistakes.
In
Right.
mistakes.
That had you had the appropriate, Mark and I have a whole company called Worthy of, it's a mentorship company.
Right.
And I tell folks,
Your phone should be blowing up.
I tell folks, I am where I am for two reasons. One, God, and two, mentorship.
Right.
I was blessed to have mentors in every aspect and facet of my life. So I didn't have to have the $150,000 mistake. You know what I'm saying? And one of the best pieces of advice I got coming out of high school, Superintendent Altman, I was good friends with his son, Dan. He knew I was going to Georgia Tech. I had to admit, I felt myself a little bit at that time. And anyway, he said, he put his hand on my shoulder, I was in the lunch line. He said, Spencer, I know you're smart, but when you get to Georgia Tech, it's a hard school. He said, son, don't be afraid to ask for help. And in my mind, I was like, come on, dude, what's up, man? Look, I make straight A's. What's wrong with you, brother? And man, I found myself after the first 30 days, I was in classes that it looked like straight Japanese on that boy. And brother, I remember that advice, and I had to humble myself after that first test where I made a score that looked like a basketball jersey number. It was, bro, it was embarrassing, brother. Yeah. I need to go get help. And that humility has stayed. I don't mind asking for help.
Right.
Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom.
That's it.
Of intelligence.
That's it.
Even the wise, even the great Bill Gates and Warren, they surround themselves with individuals who have lanes and areas of expertise to help them. Right.
So you talked about, getting the truck. The mistake took you to the correction. I always say that, mistakes are the GPS for wisdom. You did that. Now you got rich, right? I know some of the stories. So, okay, you got the truck, and then a few things happened where the universe conspired and said, let's really test him. He has the truck now, and someone stole your generator.
2 of them.
Wow. Right, I was gonna say that. So you
you get the truck, you pay cash for the truck,
right?
But then you realize
you got to renovate it.
No, I had to spend another $15,000 on a truck that I just paid, $60,000 for, because it didn't pass the code for my area.
Wow.
So now, what I tell people is that you find a builder, but you make sure that the builder is talking to your health department. And we have one of the toughest health departments in the country.
Wow.
They don't play.
Wow.
Right.
So I literally had to spend another $10,000, $15,000 to finally get the truck running to a pass inspection. So it's just, and then, no, watch this. When I got the truck, they pulled it out there and they thought I was going to drive it back. No, I had already paid for them to bring it back. Thank God. Because when we finally got it back, we never looked at the inside tires.
Oh,
wow.
And the inside tires were so bald that if I would have drove that truck from Manassas, Virginia, it'd probably kill me.
Wow.
Because the tires were so worn out. It's just like when you go buy a car, you're looking at the outside, you're looking at the inside, the motor. I never looked on the inside of the wheels. And so, it's just those little things that happen. So I had to buy new tires. It's just crazy, the stuff that happens.
So what advice would you give young entrepreneurs, someone right now, and the food truck industry is huge now. I know it's big in Georgia, it's big all over the world, right? All over the United States. So what advice would you give to someone who's been contemplating, look, my next door neighbor, can't make this up. My next door neighbor was talking to me about how he wants to buy his wife a truck because she can fry chicken. So, and I said, just sir, if you don't mind, just wait for the podcast. You might have some things you can listen. So learn from. Talk about, you're speaking to young entrepreneurs, somebody out there who's listening who maybe wants to start a food truck business, get into the restaurant business. What advice would you give them?
I mean, find someone who's going to let you work with them.
Okay.
I highly recommend you go and work with somebody, be an apprentice, be an understudy.
Okay.
Because one of the things you're going to find out about the food truck, long hours. One of the things that we did was I took my team away and we had 30 questions that we had to answer before we even started the food truck. Because I began to, you seek mentorship, but you also, Mr. Iverson, you do your research. You got to do your due diligence. I mean, you got Google, and I took time at night. I would Google why food trucks were successful, why they wasn't successful. And I probably spent more time studying why they wasn't.
Sure.
And from there, we developed 30 questions that we had to answer. And so you got to find somebody who will mentor you, but also go work on them. Go work on them in the winter when it's cold. Go work on them in the summer when it's hot.
Yeah.
Because it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I remember one night I'm driving from Martinsville, Virginia. It was raining like cats and dogs. And my truck didn't have no defrost.
Oh, wow.
So you driving blind.
I'm wiping as I go.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm driving
crazy.
20 miles per hour.
Oh, man.
It took me 2.5 hours to get home. You talking about praying?
Man.
But nobody talks about that.
Sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't. Everybody see, you see Pinky Coles and people like that making a bunch of money with their food trucks and the lines long.
Yeah.
What? It's crazy. So you got to find mentorship, but you also got to find an apprenticeship to go on. Because most people talk about, well, I got this great recipe. I fry the best fried chicken.
Yeah.
Don't matter.
Yeah.
It don't matter.
That's interesting. Even before we started this podcast, and Spencer and I talked about the concept of it and what would it look like, what would be our audience, all those things. We went to a friend.
Sure did.
And had lunch with them. Shout out to David Shands.
Shout out David Shands.
Sleepers for Suckers.
Social proof.
Social proof.
That dude was a blessing.
Absolutely. And, we've been friends for years and sat down with him for lunch and talked about some things we're going to do. Now everybody doesn't have access to a David Shands. I get that, right? But the reality was he got us set in the right direction. But we spent weeks studying, what's the best microphone, the best recording devices, the best mixers, the best camera. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes that you talk about that people need to do. Now, one of your gifts is your burden creates your blueprint. Some people aren't built that way, right? You got to have a blueprint first to get started. So one, I think you have to understand, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, or do you agree, that what you're trying to accomplish, most people need to make sure they have everything laid out to get going. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Because you can always make a decision more right later. But you got to have, at least know what is it, what are the unknowns? I always talk about the law of unintended consequences, right? You're driving back from Martinsville, Virginia, you didn't know you needed defrost, right? You didn't know you needed a coat for the winter. You thought the grill might do it, right?
No, literally. You have a toboggan. My wife bought me gloves. It was cold. I mean, literally, and my truck launched in January.
Oh, wow.
January 2nd.
Wow.
Wintertime. God got away.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
it's cold. You riding home. You freezing.
You said he launched in 1st of January.
Yeah, 1st of January. It's cold. And so it's, but people don't talk about that. See, one of the things, when I see successful people now, I ask questions. I don't get caught up in what they done.
Sure.
I'm like, can you tell me your mistakes? How'd you bump? How many times you bump your head?
Right.
And I'm finding out that those people love having conversations with you about that.
That's right.
They don't. Everybody else is looking at them and like,
Right.
Like I'm a Rick Ross fan.
Okay.
And I mean,
shout out Rick Ross.
Yeah, I'm a Rick Ross fan.
Shout out to Rose.
The funny thing, here's just a funny thing about the Rick Ross story.
Oh, that's right.
2 months ago, if you'd asked me to name a Rick Ross song and you'd give me $1 million, I'd have missed out.
Right.
But if you'd asked me some Rick Ross entrepreneur quotes, I would have been able to rattle them off. Because the dude was like, I didn't know he made Hustling till afterwards. So when his book dropped, oh my God, I read it in 6 hours. That's Another Way. He got so many nuggets in that book. And I loved it. And so then he had his conference. Well, I didn't get to make it to the conference, but I bought his book and I stood up at my church and I said, you know, next year I'm gonna go to this conference. And this is the book he gonna sign. Well, I get a text message saying Rick Ross is coming to Greensboro. And what I do is I inbox him. And then I realized one of my members was cousins to somebody that's on his team. I said, you need to hit them up.
Right.
I'm going somewhere with the story. And so, long story short, I offered to cook for him. And most people...
Sample.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah, I did it. I gave it. I didn't want to. And we fed his whole team. But I got the opportunity. He's one of the coolest guys. Humble. It's crazy how humble he was. But just taking that time to sit there and talk to him and listen to him, he taught me a powerful, powerful nugget about whether your food is good. He says, he held his fingers up like that, and he did like that. He says, if the hands don't look like that, it ain't good. And he said, this food is good. But that was a lesson.
Sure.
I mean, he
got dirty with it.
I'm looking like, yo, this dude is eating with his fingers.
Yeah.
But the wisdom that I gained from reading his book, but then also having the opportunity to talk to him. So the book, finding, you know.
And seizing, but you seize on opportunity.
Yeah.
You again, we're talking about providence. Again.
Yeah.
You saw an opportunity and you walked through the door. You didn't call Mr. Sterling. You didn't call Mark and say, oh man, it's cool. Sure would be cool if I could somehow get. No, you took action. That's what great entrepreneurs do. They see an opportunity, but for a lot of people, that's where it stops. They see it and then they wish. You took action. And then God helped do the rest.
Oh, and then the thing about it is that I told my church he was going to sign the book. So when they saw him, they never knew until afterwards, when I was feeding him. Now they're saying, wait a minute. He said he was going to do that.
That's right.
And I'm going somewhere with this. Faith without works is dead.
Of course.
I think that it's important for us, when people see us work our faith, then they'll believe that our faith will work.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's why it's so important in the context of a home-based business. If you're a leader, you go out there and hit Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald first, because your team they're living vicariously through you. Because in their mind, if you can't make it, I don't have a shot, because they see you as their leader. But I want us to end with this, man. I hate that our time is up, because you have mentioned several times about your wife.
Yes.
You've mentioned, talk about that support system and how important of a role is it for you to have that person in your life, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a good friend, whoever. Mark, I know you got it with Kat, who, ride or die, she has that 100% undying belief in you, right? Because I know, I've just heard you mention it too many times about the things that your wife did, the phone call that you made, and the reinforcement that you got came from your wife. So talk about the important role that she's played in this journey.
Well, my wife has, been with me through it all. You know what I mean? I married her when she was 18 years old. And so, she has been there through ministry, through marketplace, and all my crazy ideas. I just think that it's important that you have that person who can be with you, even if they don't see the manifestation of it all. And I know, even like now, as we're scaling it, she don't understand everything that I'm doing, but she's there.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. She knows that it was for Destiny's education. Jayla wants to invest in real estate. My wife wants to do her own insurance business. So I want to use this to fund their dreams.
Sure.
And so, she just trusts, and just being there. It's important. I think that now, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, especially like if you're single, You can't look at butt and boobs. Can I say that?
Yeah. Okay.
We had a great editor.
You helping somebody right now. You helping somebody.
You bless somebody.
You bless somebody.
But I don't think you can look at. I don't think you should look at butt and boobs
Okay.
and beauty.
Okay.
I think that marriage is too serious.
Mm-hmm.
You better find somebody you could build with.
That's good stuff,
you
bro.
You better find somebody that, whether it's ministry or marketplace business, you better find somebody that y'all could build something with.
I gotta go back to the Rick Ross thing one more time because I don't want people to lose the significance of a Rick Ross multi-millionaire coming to Seafood Destiny in Greensboro, North Carolina. This is a man in Rick Ross who could have eaten anywhere.
But guess what though? You want to hear something? The next day I made a post and that manager came on the post because they left Greensboro and went to Baltimore.
Okay.
Shout out to the Ravens.
Shout out to Ravens.
Yeah. And she made a comment on my post. They were eating seafood in Maryland. And Rick Ross said, the food that the pastor gave us yesterday
was better than this.
Wow.
And again, it's a testament to so many different things. But again, shout out to Rick, again, who could have gone to, hey, look, find the 5-star restaurant in Greensboro. That's where I'm going to go and get some photo ops and, autograph stuff. And no, but he supported a small business owner.
Definitely.
Knowing the impact it could have for your business.
Oh, definitely.
See, I love people who are authentic. And then, and here's the other thing I like and appreciate. You haven't told me this, but I know what did not happen. Rick Ross's crew did not call Channel 6 News and say, hey, just FYI, I'm going to be at this place. He didn't do it for a photo op.
Nope.
He didn't do it for presence. He did it because he was genuinely wanting somehow, some way to support another African-American man's business.
Right.
And we need more people to do that.
Right.
Right. And I honestly can say I do.
I think the powerful thing about it is that when we're talking about building, I said it earlier, you got SMS, strategy, marketing, sales. Mm-hmm. There was a strategy. And if I could get the food in front of him, because people ask me, did he pay? I didn't want his money.
Right.
I needed him to be soil.
Yeah.
I needed to plant a seed because I wanted a bigger harvest.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I didn't need to make a sale. I needed some soil so I could plant a seed. But what happened was, a boy from Lexington, North Carolina, I'm taking pictures and Rick Ross is putting my stuff, tagging my name on Instagram. Man, I'm a legend.
Yeah, man.
I'm a legend. It's just like you hanging out with, they act like I know him. No.
Right.
But then he reposted it that following Monday and we started a dialogue.
Nice.
And I'm going to bring this back full circle. We started a dialogue. And I said to him, I put it out there. I said, man, I can't wait to come bless the kitchen in the promised land. He said, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm going to bring it full circle. Mm-hmm. One of my members who'd been detached saw that I cooked for him. And she commented on the post that he made. And he started dialoguing with her and said his food was great, but the word he gave me privately was even powerful. She called me and said, Pastor, you know what? You my dude. She said, I'm going to start paying my tithes. She said this. She said, I've seen you endure. Mm-hmm. People have flipped on you, ministry and marketplace. She said, I know it ain't easy, but she said, but you my pastor.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So it comes back.
There it is.
The journey. Because the ultimate thing is, while I did this for my daughter, I ultimately want to inspire people.
Yeah.
Yep.
To be, do, and have more.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
So let's go ahead and close out. But first, I want to say thank you for many, many reasons. One, a lot of people know this, but you actually married my wife and I in the Caribbean island on the beach.
We're going back. We're doing the vows, bro.
And we were making great money back then. And I remember calling over and saying, hey, we want to do a private ceremony on the beach. And they told me the price, and I said, no, we're not doing that. And guess what? We snuck out before the sun rose up, before security came out. And he married us as the sun came up. We got great photos.
Is that why we did that?
I tell you that. If you were past, I'm going to tell you that. I
just thought
he just thought he was complicit in the crime.
Now I found out the reason.
Hey, look, man, we had plenty of money, man. But I'm tight.
Frugal.
Frugal. That's the word.
I'm a good steward.
I'm a great steward.
Boy, the stuff you find out later.
Hey, man, I'm telling you. So, but no, that was amazing, and I appreciate your friendship over the years, man.
Yes,
Thank you for Miss Berzetta Notch for allowing you to travel the roads, to come visit with us, spend time. But I want to thank you on behalf of all the Success Illustrated audience and the knowledge you dropped.
Oh yeah.
If you could share just one more closing point, that there's that entrepreneur out there. They're looking to do something. It could be a food truck. It could be ministry. It could be whatever. They're looking to do something. Bless them right now with what does it take to become Success Illustrated?
Understand that what you have on the inside of you is the blueprint. And you have to keep your eyes on what's on the inside of you, because what's on the inside of you is the E&D. And it's important that you keep the E&D on the inside of you, because it becomes the mirror of all the things that you go through in this journey. So I always say, when I find myself in a situation, I look at what I in and see if it resembles the E&D that's in me.
Awesome.
And so if this is not the E&D, then what I in is the process that's going to prepare me for the E&D.
That's good.
Love it.
So understand that in this journey, the process is the prize.
Yeah.
Because it prepares you for the E&D.
The process is the prize.
The process is a prize.
God gave Joseph the E&D. He didn't show him the pit, Potiphar's wife. He didn't show him the prison. So, but what he did show him was the E&D. And so that when he went through the different processes and the ugly components of it,
He could
this
endure.
is not it.
That's it.
He could endure. So you gotta have stickability. You gotta endure. But you always gotta keep your eyes on the E&D. So what I in, if you ain't got enough money, but you got the E&D.
Yeah.
You ain't got enough people, but you got the E&D. You ain't got enough people supporting you, but you gotta keep your eyes on the E&D.
That's good.
Pastor, tell us how people can find you. I want to eat at Seafood Destiny. I want to go to the website. I'm in the Triad area, or if I'm traveling through, how can people find out more about the man who fed Rick Ross and it was finger licking good?
Yeah, actually, we're actually, Instagram, Seafood Destiny, Facebook, Seafood Destiny. Also, our website is seafooddestiny.com.
I love it, guys. We'll have all of those links right down here on the website. It's time for us to wrap up again. This is Spencer Iverson. As I always love to say, guys, we hope that by you watching the Success Illustrated podcast, that you will eventually and ultimately become the person who illustrates Success Illustrated, and you ultimately become worthy of millions. Mark?
Guys, you know how I close it always? I always close it out. Never dream small dreams, because small dreams don't have magic. God bless, take care, and we'll see you all over the world.
See you guys.